You think your marriage is just, between you and your partner. You figure that love you share is safe inside your home, just protected by the vows you took.
Well, think again, because this isn't just about feelings or even money. PG Sebastian's core idea, which we're really getting into today, is that maybe the biggest threat, the one nobody talks about enough, might be the people who share your spouse's bloodline.
It sounds pretty intense, I know, but the observations are there. Sebastian points out that in-laws have this profound, almost fundamental influence. So much so that if a marriage starts off rocky with them, he says it usually, it does not last. It's not a side issue, it's central.
Exactly. Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. We're here to unpack the insights from PG Sebastian's Steps to Forever work. Today, our mission is to understand why this conflict, this acrimony, even starts often before the wedding planning is even done, and crucially, how Sebastian advises couples navigate what is, let's be honest, a relational minefield.
And we need to set the scene here. We're often talking about young, cosmopolitan African couples. They're juggling modern lives, careers, independence, but also dealing with these really powerful traditional family structures.
Right. And many kind of see the extended family as almost a nuisance, a throwback. They forget that PG Sebastian sees them as absolutely integral, like success determining for the whole marriage unit.
Which leads to his really strong, maybe even jarring advice for couples thinking about marriage.
Yeah, it's basically hold off on the wedding. Seriously, don't walk down that aisle until you've sorted out the major differences with the in-laws. Because, if you can't find some peace before you sign the papers, what makes you think it'll magically appear after?
Okay, so let's unpack that core conflict. PG Sebastian basically asks, how do these two groups, who barely know each other sometimes, become enemies so quickly? And he suggests the first shots are often fired by the parents-in-law, especially, it seems, mothers-in-law, towards their sons' wives.
Sebastian's analysis kind of breaks down that initial hostility. First, there are what he calls external factors. This is pretty straightforward mismatch stuff.
Like?
Like, the chosen spouse just doesn't fit the family's long-held expectations. Based on things like physical appearance, money, social class, ethnicity, even religious background. If the new partner doesn't tick those unspoken boxes, well, the tension starts right there.
That sounds like pure judgment.
Yeah.
Almost transactional. But it goes deeper than just a checklist, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What if there's someone else in the picture, or some of the parents' wish was in the picture?
Exactly. The hostility really ramps up if the parents-in-law had a clear preference for another person, maybe an ex they really liked or someone new they're actively trying to push forward. The mother-in-law might just try to freeze the current partner out.
Okay, but here's where it gets really psychologically complex, I think. The whole battle for control.
Yeah, this is the engine room of the friction, according to Sebastian. It's hostility, often from a mother-in-law who feels like she's losing ownership or possession of her son. She feels this new person, the daughter-in-law, has basically taken over the influence she used to have.
And Sebastian notes this is especially fierce in certain families.
Yes, particularly in high social class families. He says the mother-in-law cannot accept that someone else can control her son, even if she's powerful in her own right, outside the home. It becomes an ego thing. A real power struggle.
Is it always ego, though? Or just different ways of seeing things clashing?
Well, Sebastian's pretty pragmatic. He says the friction gets really bad when the incoming spouse is seen as an independent thinker, someone assertive who speaks their mind, who does what they want to do, not what they are told to do. That kind of independence can feel like a direct challenge to the established family hierarchy. Control alarms just go off.
And then there's the really painful one, especially in certain cultural contexts. The pressure around children?
Oh, absolutely. Sebastian highlights childbearing expectations as a critical flashpoint. He notes that if there's an inability to conceive, some parents-in-law will descend heavily on the couple, particularly the wife. It's a huge pressure point that can override everything else.
Okay, so that's the parent side. Now let's flip it. What about the pushback? The maybe even disdain coming from the new spouse or spouse-to-be? PG Sebastian says this often gets way worse after the wedding.
Right. So what triggers the new spouse to become hostile?
Yeah.
PG Sebastian points to the first big one. The moment the spouse sees, or even just perceives, weakness in their partner when that partner is dealing with their own family.
Weakness how?
Usually tied to money. An ongoing financial burden or dependency that the family is putting on the new couple, the new spouse's hostility. It's often a defense mechanism. It's basically saying, this financial drain has to stop. now.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not really, I hate your mom. It's more like, I resent that you're letting your family potentially harm our financial future.
Precisely. Then there's the social mismatch factor. Say, a man from a humbler background marries into a higher social class. His wife might start finding his family's ways, maybe their manners or lifestyle, a bit, well, uncouth, as Sebastian puts it.
A put off.
Yeah, feeling they can't be beautifully paraded in her social circles. It's that upward mobility clashing with where the family came from. It causes real disdain sometimes.
And the last one, the death by 1,000 cuts, the little things.
It's the buildup of small, annoying intrusions that creates this mutual sense of hostility. Sebastian lists examples. Mothers or sisters-in-law snooping around, making little digs about the wife being wasteful, taking things without asking, or just showing up unannounced all the time. It's that constant chipping away at privacy and respect. It just makes things explosive.
Which brings us to the absolute crunch point.
Huh?
The spouse, often the husband in these scenarios, caught between the bond of blood and the bond of marriage. What's his default setting, and why is it so maddening for the new wife?
Sebastian's take is pretty sobering here. He says the bond of blood is as thick as the bond of marriage. Deep down, the husband wants to avoid confrontation between his wife and his mother, like at all costs.
So he stays neutral.
At best, neutral. Which, of course, feels like he's taking his mother's side, even if he isn't actively doing so.
And PG argues there's a critical mistake the wife needs to avoid if she ever wants him to step in effectively.
Yeah, she has to become a master of, well, not escalating. Sebastian observes that if the wife directly confronts the mother-in-law, the husband is very likely going to side with his mom, instinctively.
So when does he intervene?
He tends to only step in decisively if the wife has managed to respond to her mother-in-law's difficult behavior with, and this is key, silence and respect. If she jumps into the emotional fray, she often loses his backing.
We also need to get the husband's timing here. Sebastian calls it the shock absorber effect, right?
Exactly. Men often have this huge delayed reaction because, frankly, they're used to their family's behavior. Maybe their mom has always been critical or demanding. He built up resistance like 15 years ago.
So what feels like a massive shock to the new wife?
To him, it just feels like Tuesday. It's normalcy.
Ah, okay. And that's why you get those incredibly frustrating comments from him like,
"Oh, don't you know that's just how my mother is?" Or, "Can't you just try to get used to it?" It's not logic, it's a conditioned response. He genuinely struggles to fight something he's lived with his whole life. He kind of unconsciously expects you to build up your own defenses.
okay, so if direct confrontation is usually a bad idea, what's PG Sebastian's practical playbook for spouses? How do you actually keep the peace and protect the marriage? Let's dive into those strategies.
Okay, strategy 1. Do not underestimate his love for his family, even if it's complicated. Sebastian warns really clearly, never, ever join your husband in disrespecting his family.
Why not? Even if he starts it.
Because anything negative you say, even if you're just agreeing with him in the moment, could be thrown back at you later when things get tough. That blood bond, it runs deep even when strained. Don't give him ammunition.
That's smart. Like
Yeah.
relationship politics 101. Okay, what's next?
Do not neglect responsibility. This is a big one. Sebastian says deep down, the man secretly wants his wife to make the effort. You know, call his parents, visit sometimes, remember birthdays or anniversaries.
He wants her to take the lead on that.
Often, yes. And Sebastian is really blunt here. Do not make excuses. He actually compares making excuses for not engaging with in-laws to putting flammable liquid in a lighter next to a 3-year-old child. You're basically setting things up to explode down the line.
Wow, okay, so you have to actively engage, which leads to the next point, I guess. Play your politics well.
Exactly. Sebastian advises treating in-laws with what he calls healthy cordiality. Think of it like managing a tricky but necessary professional relationship. Maybe not your best friends, but essential for keeping the whole system, your marriage, stable.
Like a boss you have to get along with.
Sort of. Don't overdo it. Don't get overly familiar or emotionally tangled, but maintain that respectful distance and necessary connection. It's like corporate diplomacy, but for your home life.
Okay. And this next one sounds maybe the hardest, especially for the wife. Leash your tongue.
This is PG Sebastian making a direct plea, really. He says nagging, constantly complaining about your mother-in-law who might be dealing with her own stuff. You know, loneliness, menopause, maybe a difficult past. That is the fastest way to lose this battle.
Because the husband will just tune out or defend her.
He's likely to side with the woman he's known his entire life over someone he perceives as causing conflict, even if she's right. Years of history versus, say, 5 years of misunderstanding, as Sebastian puts it. It's just human nature.
Okay, final strategy in this playbook.
Be tactful and patient, especially with difficult siblings-in-law. So if you've got a sister-in-law who's messy or intrusive or whatever, Sebastian says mention it to your husband nicely. Once, maybe twice.
And if he doesn't jump right on it?
Let it slide, PG advises. Men often operate on their own timeline with family stuff. If you stay calm, respectful, patient, he'll likely deal with it eventually, maybe when you least expect it. But pushing too hard too fast often backfires. Patience is key.
Right. Let's shift gears a bit now to something that can be tough to hear. The need for learning and adaptation within the marriage itself. Sebastian argues you can't just expect your spouse to change everything they know for you.
Absolutely. You have to be willing to learn, too. Sebastian really emphasizes that young couples should listen when in-laws offer genuine advice on how to understand or treat their spouse. You know, the little quirks, the preferences, the things only a parent might know.
He uses a biblical example, doesn't he?
Yeah, the story of Jethro advising Moses on how to manage his workload. The point is clear. Don't learn about your partner the hard way, through constant conflict. Try to learn the smart way, by listening to the people who've known them forever.
And this connects to the very sensitive issue of homemaking as a core success factor.
Yes. Now, this can be really challenging, especially for modern, highly educated women. But Sebastian is pretty uncompromising here. He says you can't reasonably expect your husband to suddenly unlearn everything that he holds dear about home life or downgraded his expectations of a well-managed home just because maybe that wasn't your focus before marriage.
So if homemaking skills are seen as lacking.
In certain cultural contexts, Sebastian sees that as a critical epicenter. It's a starting point from which other problems, other cracks in the marriage can develop. It's not the only thing, but it's significant.
And this requires swallowing some serious pride, doesn't it? Especially if the criticism is coming from, say, a critical mother-in-law.
Huge pride swallowing. You could be a top lawyer, a CEO. But Sebastian has this famously sharp line for the wife who resists learning these skills. It is not your law degree that is being attacked. It is your high school certificate in the home management you are struggling to get. Do not confuse the two.
Ouch. Yeah. Ouch. Yeah. It's about recognizing that professional success doesn't automatically mean you have all the skills needed for this particular partnership dynamic.
It's a tough truth, but accepting it, learning, adapting, that can be crucial for peace.
Okay, but it's not all on the new spouse. We absolutely have to flip back and talk about the boundaries for the extended family. PG Sebastian has some really direct warnings for them, too. In-laws aren't off the hook.
Definitely not. What does he say to parents-in-law specifically?
Basically, be brief, be selective, respect their space. If you're welcomed into their home, treated with respect, his message is essentially, don't abuse that privilege. He says, do not use it as a launch pad to launch rockets into their homes with your long and snoopy noses. Give them room. Stay out of the intimate workings of your marriage if you possibly can.
Just give them space to build their own thing. And what about siblings-in-law? The message there seems even more direct. Oh, it's brutally clear. Sebastian states plainly, your brother's wife is not your slave. Full stop. He emphasizes that the brother's own family now is what he has with his wife, not you and your parents and siblings.
That's a massive shift in perspective.
It really is. In the new marriage equation, the siblings actually become the stranger in the equation, as Sebastian puts it. Their primary unit has changed. That's a hard truth for many siblings to accept.
And here's a challenge back to the listeners, especially the men. Remember what Sebastian points out. Guys will often take out their frustration about their wife's relative's behavior on the wife herself.
If her brother is causing problems, the husband probably won't confront the brother directly. He'll give his wife grief about it. So the lesson is both partners need to manage their own families, keep their siblings leashed, basically, to protect their marriage.
It seems the fundamental shift PG Sebastian is calling for is just acceptance. Accepting that in-laws are a permanent, integral part of the deal once you truly see them as necessary components, not obstacles.
Your whole approach has to change, right? It shifts from defense and resentment to something more like diplomacy. Strategic maneuvering, even. It's about managing the reality, not wishing it away.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave everyone with a final, quite powerful thought from Sebastian. It's a warning, really, aimed squarely at mothers-in-law. He poses this really haunting question, and it speaks volumes about legacy.
He asks, how many years have you to live in this life that you want to ruin the life and joy of a young woman because of your own inability to socially adjust and accept his moving on?
Woo, yeah. That's the kind of destructive legacy no parent wants to leave behind, surely.
It really forces all of us, whatever our role in these dynamics, to think about the complexity of it all. You know, the bond of blood versus the bond of words hastily spoken in the presence of a priest. Which bond are you going to prioritize nourishing and keeping healthy today?
Definitely something to reflect on.
Absolutely. And if you want to navigate these incredibly tricky but vital relationship dynamics with more wisdom, please go explore more of P.G. Sebastian's materials with Steps to Forever. There's